Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on October 1st, 2021 at approximately 4:55 a.m. PST. Well, things are interesting. I do find I start that way a lot, but that being said, this is a live recording, meaning when I get done this recording, I simply go back, double check to make sure I got the date and time right and post it as is. You get all the hiccups, all the dropped words, all the pauses. Doesn't matter. On the plus side, if you ever meet me in person, which I don't know if that's a plus, but you'll find I talk the same way. Okay, I end up correcting myself in speech. Okay, I have a very definitive outlook on the way I do things. Not necessarily the best one, but the one thing I will tell you is every tool I offer, if it applies to my life, I'm using it. If not, I've got somewhere in excess of 80,000 clients under my belt from over the last, what are we now, 48 years of helping people with consulting with people on personal issues, on business, on UFOs, on abductions, missing time, psychic phenomenon. You name the topic, the odds are I've dealt with it. Now, this does not mean I'm the only person. I'm certainly not an authority. I am simply the only one that I know of that can be me. Okay. I hear there's doppelgangers out there, as in lookalikes of everybody. I don't know. I've never met one. At least not of me. That said, if you like our video, like the video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and remember to hit the alert button to let you know when the next video comes out. Now, I've managed to get a number of things organized. Of course, I always run into a hiccup, but today's a different type of day for me. Well, no, it really isn't. I've got my office section is set up where I can write. Down, it's all working fine. Okay. Too many wires if you ask me, but that's what you get for having a computer. Now, the reality for me is I've got the energy in here working. Now it's time to get the energy in the rest of the house working. And that's where this neat little thing called list comes in handy. Now, I know I've mentioned it multiple times, and of course, I was looking at it, thought I had it all organized. So much for that. I keep a list handy. Now, I recommend that you put 3 things on a list. As you can see, my list is a little longer. I don't expect you to read it. Of course, even if you could read it, even if it was big enough that you could focus on it, I don't know if you can read my handwriting. But keep those tasks to 15 minutes to half an hour. Okay, that way you can check them off and it feels like you've got things done. Okay, now I've already got a couple of things done today, but as a matter of fact, I'm getting back into getting the left hand working again. Of course, I'm not trying to write anything, just checking it off for the moment. One of my goals, personal goals, is to get this left arm of mine working properly. But I'll tell you, having the coffee on my left-hand side works like a charm. Now, the energy in my office right now is the first area I'm starting. And like you, there's only one place you can start sorting things out. And that is right where you are sitting right here, right now. The easiest way to get started is to pick a direction and go with it. Just look around whatever you require as whatever you feel is not working properly for you. That's where you start. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Okay, the reality is everyone is in exactly the same boat. We are right here, right now, and this is the only time in existence. And, this is the only time in existence that you can change anything, that you can accomplish anything at all. Even if you procrastinate, when you start to do something, that's in the here and now. And that's the only time you can do it. Where it comes to success, no matter who you are, no matter how much money you got, you are still the only one that can actually be successful for you. Okay, certainly you can tell other people do this job for me. Okay, but are you actually as successful as you'd like? Because if you think about it, let's say you get somebody else to do all your work for you. There's an old thing that literally goes, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. Now, there are times when you have to rely on other people. In my case, where it comes to finding my way around places, I absolutely rely on other people. Because my sense of direction, much as I keep telling myself it's getting better, there's such a thing as living a lie. And I know from absolute unequivocal proof to me, my sense of direction is not getting a whole lot better. Even as it turns out, my own code of the way I live doesn't have a lot of room for variation. And unfortunately, that can cause a problem, even in my entertainment side of things. So, what I'm doing today, the way today goes is this. I've got the office sorted around. I've got to get things sorted around on my painting desk because I pulled a whole bunch of stuff out. I was looking for something. And because of the way yesterday went, I didn't actually get it all put away again. Not a good way to do things. Remember what I mentioned about you've got to have your office, your working station clear at night? Well, I'm not perfect, so it doesn't always work out that way. On the plus side, I actually thought I'd left the dishes on the counter after, on drying on the counter. So when I got up this morning, I'm going, I gotta go and get the dishes put away. As it turns out, I put them away last night, which is the way it should be. You finish your meal, clean up after, put the stuff away, and carry on with the day. The more organized you are, the less stress you're going to feel, and the more effective your life can be. Effective for you. In all fairness, much as I'm interested in the way other people's lives go, the reality is, on an individual basis, it is far more important that your life is going the way that you feel comfortable. And remember, you've got to make sure you're following karmic law. Yes, be true to yourself first. However, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Each of those laws is equally important to the rest of them, just like the legs on a three-legged stool. If all of those parts are not running equally well, then that pedestal that you're standing on, that thing that is your life, is going to be off balance. And as you well know, if your life is off balance, you're not going to be as relaxed as if it's running smoothly. Now, the hard part, of course, is realizing that, yes, there's a lot of things going on out there, a lot of people doing a lot of different things. However, I know that people are starting to get the message, because I've commented multiple times, and I don't know how well it's working. I just know I've seen a change. Maybe it's because I'm just simply looking for it more. But I'm noticing less and less people posting things like who shot who blew up what. More people are posting, look at how these people helped these people, or how did these people help these animals. Okay. And yes, like I have suggested, much as I am posting a specific set of videos that does not, it's not even going to come close in all likelihood to shall we say, rivaling the numbers of the gaming videos. And the people that are doing the gaming videos are doing a bang-up job. Clearly, they're making headway. Okay. I'm not that way inclined. The problem is that the more people, I shouldn't call it a problem. It's great seeing people distracting themselves with the videos. Okay, I'm much more personally interested in whether people are distracting themselves by being nice to each other. Okay, now the world that was there when we were when people my age were kids is not the world that we're dealing with. Mind you, the world that you knew 5 years ago is not the same world that we're living in. Okay, it has changed. We're not going back to the way it was. Okay, at least I hope not. Just a personal thought, but the way it was, massive greed, massive debauchery, massive bullying. I just assume that didn't go on. So we turn to the spiritual side of it. Now I build myself as a spiritual guide for my entire life. But I'm a firm believer that if you're going to claim to be a spiritual guide, if you're going to claim that you're doing your creator's work, okay, then for pity's sakes, quit talking about fearing everything. Okay, if you're following somebody that is telling you, and I don't care whether you're in a group meeting, if you're in a support meeting, if you're in a church, a temple, a covenant, it doesn't matter. If the person that you're looking to for guidance is telling you, fear whatever, do this or you're in serious trouble, okay, if they give you something functional to work on, that's great, but here's the thing. If they're going to give you something functional to work on, make absolutely certain that they're following the same guidelines they're telling you. I had my own misgivings about RSPs, for instance. A lot of misgivings. So I went to a financial advisor, and I asked him what to do, and he started telling me about the RSPs, registered retirement savings plans. And he was touting how good they were, et cetera, et cetera. And I literally looked at the man, and I said, okay, before we go any further, this all sounds great. I says, but these products that you're saying are so good, do you have one? And he goes, absolutely not. He says, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I says, then why, pray tell, are you telling me that I should do it? If it's not good enough for you to touch, why would you tell me I should touch it? Okay. And he honestly looked at me and he goes, well, because I work for a bank and they tell me to promote the RSPs. And I went, okay, I want something else because I'm not touching the RSP. As it stands now, okay, I did a little more looking into it, and I talked to somebody that understood and could explain how RSPs are actually beneficial. So do I have one now? Absolutely. Do I understand now how it works? Certainly. But when I went to the financial advisor, okay, I don't understand it well enough, by the way, to explain it to you, but that's what somebody else can do. But when I went to the financial advisor, I didn't understand it. I had my misgivings, so I asked him, you're telling me this is a good thing. Are you using it? He said, no. I says, I don't want one. It's that simple. I don't care whether you promote it or not, because I'm not interested in whether the bank likes it. Okay. If you're following somebody that tells you that the material world is garbage, it's all evil, and they are building a phenomenal amount of money around them, it may be wise to question whether following them is a good idea. Now, I will tell you this. Yes, I'm a spiritual guide, no question. And the tools I offer you, I do, if they apply to me, I do follow them. Now, I'm going to say something, and it's going to sound a little weird. Okay. I strongly encourage you to find a group of people, whether it's a church, a temple, whether it's a support crew, doesn't matter. Find a group of people that you can connect with to give you that that emotional support. Now, do I personally, understand where it comes to, especially the religious side of things? I was baptized Roman Catholic when I was a baby. Now, there's a lot of question around that. Okay, but then the church's reasoning for it, as far as I understood it, was because I was very ill, and they said if I died without being baptized, I would go to hell. Nice place to start teaching people, but that's what they did. And essentially, they coerced my parents into having me baptized in the hospital. As it turned out, it didn't work quite as well. Well, maybe it did. I ended up dying anyway. Yeah, I know, I'm sitting here talking to you, and I just finished telling you I died. But that's okay, that was only the beginning. This is one of the reasons I don't fear death. Been there, done that, kind of an intriguing trip. I'm not looking forward to the next one, but it'll happen eventually. In any event, I was raised broadband Protestant. I was raised on a military base, and every 3 or 4 years we would have a different minister come in, and I went to a Protestant church. But 10 years into going to said Protestant church, 10 might have been 13, but at least 10 years into it, we had a pastor come in that literally said, my father had been the superintendent of Sunday schools at the time, and he had taken a youth group from 40 people to 240 people in about 10 years. And this one year, a pastor came in and he goes, if you're not of this specific denomination, get out. Well, my entire family walked out of the church that day. Okay, so I spent years agnostic, as in I would have nothing to do with the organized religions. Nothing at all. Okay, then I got thinking, and I got a message, and this is where it gets a little loopy. I ended up getting called back to the church and became an actual minister. But that being said, do I follow a regular church, as it were, or regular teachings? No, I really don't. I became a minister via the Universal Life Church down in California. Now, I'm up in Canada, but the thing that caught my attention was this. The basic outlook they had, at least when I joined them, was we don't care what you call God. Call him what you will. Worshiping him and worship him as you will, but for pity's sakes, be nice to each other. That was the backbone of why I looked at it. Okay, so at this point, I will not tell you what church to go to, but I will tell you this. If you're going to one where the pastor is telling you, fear your spiritual guide, fear your creator, you might want to reconsider who you're following. Okay, myself, do I fear? I fear certain things, pain more than anything else. I fear getting lost. Do I fear my creator? No. Would I go back to a church and start sitting in? It's possible. I'm not expecting to, but we'll see what happens. Okay, I just don't have a real draw to it because I see way too much in organized religion where people, for my liking, are promoting fear and prejudice and segregation, and they're not taking care of the sick, they're not taking care of the poor. And this is just what I've seen. Maybe the church in your area or the temple in your area is doing the right thing. Maybe they are opening the doors. And if so, that is absolutely great. As I've told people, okay, I'm not the only answer. I simply return to pass on one message. Okay, and that message is that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Okay. Now, do I have memories of past lives? All kinds of them. Okay, in simplest terms, like people have asked me how far back I remember. Well, let's see. Now, we're not going to count before this universe came into existence, which I've got memories of that as well. But just starting with this world, I remember the world being built. Okay, I remember, and I'm not talking about our research because I hate research. People ask me, and I will make a point. I was asked about a given event that I will go and read up. I'm not even sure what the event is. I know what it's called. Okay, right off the top of my head, I don't. But the reality of it is that I've got it listed in one of my YouTube comments that somebody wanted me to look into something. So I will look into it and take a look at it and get back to them on it. I may get back to everybody on it, but I'll debate that later. In the meantime, I do remember, and you'll love this, especially with what I just told you. Okay, I do remember the Exodus from Egypt. I do remember the whole gathering at the base of the mountain. at the base of Mount Sinai. Okay, if I remember correctly, I think that's the name of the place. Anyway, I remember the fall of the Lemurian Empire. That was a shock. I remember the fall of Pompeii. I remember the Minoan Empire going into the water. Okay, I remember I spent years in Rome as a plebe, as a senator, as a gladiator. Okay, I spent and as a Roman soldier. Okay, so I spent a lot of lifetimes in Rome, which is what concerns me with today's world because I'm seeing the same thing happen all over again. Okay, I remember the clan wars in Scotland. I remember the unification of the whole 9 yards. Okay, I still remember the Black Plague, the Black Death. Okay, I was a coroner at that point, and I'll tell you, did I ever make a lot of money? Lost a lot of friends, but I made an awful pile of money. Okay, I remember being in a fishing village in the early 1800s. Okay, I remember watching my girlfriend get murdered. Okay, not fun. Okay, now I remember World War II, or not World War II, rather World War One. World War II, I sort of remember, but I wasn't as involved in the same way. That being said, now bear in mind, this lifetime, I was born in 1963. I did not do well in school. Things like history just did not really interest me, and geography interested me less. But the reason geography interested me less was because when I was growing up, I was told you could not draw a line in the sandbox and say, this is my area, you can't come into it. And I could never, and still to this day, I don't really wrap my brain around it well. Why people can draw a line on a sheet of paper and go, this is my place, you can't come here. Okay. Now I understand the issue of needing areas that are yours. Okay. I do not understand the issue of why people are insisting that if you're a different skin color, this makes you a different type of person. I look at people and go, you're either a nice person or you're not. It's just that simple. Doesn't matter who you vote for. I've met people that are in every political field. Okay, at least most of them. In Canada, I've met liberals. I've met people, the Conservatives. I've met people in the NDP. I've met a variety of them. And the reality of it is this: they are all exactly the same. As are you. You're all right here, right now. You all are born at some point. You've all got parents. Therefore, you are kids. Even if you were born in a test tube, you're still kids. You're somebody's kid. You're all going to die one day. Some of us just make a bigger run at it. Okay. In my case, that I can think of offhand, I've been dead 8 times. 4 before I was 10. So, for those of you that are worried about dying, you're going to. Okay. Whether you stay that way or not is a whole different issue. Okay, not going to speak to that right now, but I will tell you this. The more you understand about you, and the more you understand about what you're content with, the easier it's going to be. Okay, this little thing here. You can't see it very well, but the funny little fade in the middle of it, this is actually a galaxy in there. Okay, the Milky Way, if I recall correctly. Okay, and it sits right up here for me. So I've got, because the Milky Way tells me there's all these other planets out there. Now, you can't see them, but out in my hallway, I have something called boson heads. Now, if you're my age, you undoubtedly have heard the term before. And I've got those lined up all down my hallway in the hall itself, reminding me that all people are equal. Okay, I've even got some animals in there, and I think some of them have plants. And to me, animals, plants, people, non-human races, okay, they're all equal. And this is just the reality of it. Okay. For me, now, I mentioned it's not likely I'll go to any sort of a church setting anytime soon. The reason is simple. I've become more and more reclusive. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to my ex the other day about figuring out how to actually order food and what have you online, so I don't have to go anywhere. Because frankly, I'm just not interested in it. I will continue doing these videos with the intention of getting this message out. Because much as I remember, I remember the Roman Empire quite clearly. I remember 2,000 years ago like it was yesterday. Mind you, I remember the Black Plague like it was yesterday. And, this is why when I look around the world today and I'm going, people are worried about the wrong thing. Okay. People keep talking about when's World War III going to start? When are we going to, what do we do if we get invaded by aliens? How am I going to deal with things? I'm afraid of this, that, and the other thing. I was talking to somebody the other day. They are literally afraid of getting out of bed now. Well, I will tell you, getting out of bed, if you're sitting on a pedestal, if you're up on a spire somewhere and getting out of bed is going to result in like a 400-foot drop, I'd be worried about getting out of bed too. But you have to start somewhere, and it starts it actually starts up here. As a thought, it comes into your heart as an emotional imperative. Then you work it out in your brain and go, okay, how am I going to get what I'm aiming for my heart? And I asked one of my mentors, what do you do when your heart and your head are in conflict? And he laughed at me, he looks at me and he goes, well, he says, when your heart and your head are in conflict, follow your heart, but use your head to get there. So, my heart led to a couple of things, not the least of which was this little book that I've shown you before. When I was 15, I decided I was going to write a story. I was told to write a storyline. This is the outcome of that storyline. Now I've got the short term with this is to get the other 11 books written. Okay, to get the whole thing sorted around, to get the whole story out and read and written. In that series, I will be covering things like, what is it, from my understanding, what is a soulmate? How are they connected? What is a life mate? What is a twin flame? What is a soul family? And rest assured, from what I've seen, it is not what most people that I've talked to are looking at. So I've got a very different way of looking at the world. But if you've got questions in any field, drop me on, let me know in the notes, in the comments below. If you've got a question that you don't want the general public to know about as far as that goes, there's a list of ways of contacting me below this video. Reach out to any one of them, and I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. That said, I'm going to cut this down. I'm going to close this off now because I keep these to a half-hour mark. Okay, because I know you've got things to do, and I've got a lot of things to get done. That said, I will be back again tomorrow sometime. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.